Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton at Big C Sports. Coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful July the 8th, 2020. Round of the Puentes, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, it's a beautiful, humid day down here in the south. Everybody's enjoying themselves, and I want to say thank you to those frontline healthcare workers, the nurses, doctors, first responders, Charlton, all those people who are fighting every day trying to keep America safe.
They are trying to keep everybody safe, and we're trying to too. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars also all around the world. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away. And I really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, Big C, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still pictures, all fair, love, and war. Man, I always love pausing before we get up on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. I never want to pause on that. They are experienced in helping veterans and their loved ones get through, Big C. Why is it so important to you?
Well, Charlton, the rate of veteran suicide in this country is horrific, and it's something that should not be accepted as status quo. We're losing some 22 veterans a day to suicide in this country, who seems to have all the resources in the world, but yet when we talk about a state of emergency, that should be considered as a state of emergency, with our veterans committing suicide every day, Charlton, versus the state of emergency that was declared on the southern border. You know, get the help for the veterans, those people who have served this country admirably and sacrificed everything. We give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton. I wish it was something that all the media outlets did every day to remind people how important the veterans have been to this great country over the years of service that they've done, and we try to do our part daily.
And all we can do is do our part. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can get some help. Also, very happy to be affiliated with Valley, Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, Direct TV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants, and the Say Hey Kid, just tell them Big C Central. The goal is simple: recruit 100 real estate brokers, put their property listings on TV, just like McDonald's does it, car dealerships do it, and yes, sports teams, they're going to do it again too, Big C. Let TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. For those of you looking for opportunities in real estate, go to BigCSports.pacwm.com. That's BigCSports.pacwm.com, and you can see about opportunities in the world of real estate. Man, I know in this great world that we live in, it's summertime, but it's so hot here in California. I really wish it would rain. There was a guy that sang a song back in the day. Oh, I wish it would rain. I wish it would rain, 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 rain. Well, I think you guys get it more down south than we do out here in the West Coast. Big C, your thoughts?
Yeah, we do, and that was the Temptations that sung that song, Wish
Okay.
It Rain. You know, we get it just about every other day, at least 3 times a week. We get it here, Charlton, waiting on something to come in again tonight, but you know, that's what keeps everything so green and lush. And I mean, rain is the cycle of life. You know, it's something that we all need and the world needs on a consistent basis. And Charlton, I wish we could wipe out and wash away some of these pandemics and problems that we're having in the United States with all that rain.
Yeah, all that rain. So the Temptation, let it rain, 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 rain. Man, I wish I knew the song was better than I do, but I still remember it from being a little boy and how the Temptations would do their thing, and I still remember it to this day. But I do want to touch on some things before we even get into most of the show. I love, when I was a young boy, Big C, we played this game called Follow the Leader. And oftentimes, you didn't know where the leader was going, but if you just follow him, you hope he doesn't lead you off a cliff, Big C. But follow the leader is something that I learned to do when I was a young boy. And so I hear that the Ivy League, with all the pandemic and spiking going on, I have a pastor friend. Man, he has one of the larger congregations in California, and they've had over 20 people pass away this year alone from COVID-19, and most of them older and African American, but 20 people. And when the pandemic started, these were a lot of the same people that said that God was going to save them, and they did not believe in wearing a mask. Some churches even sued the state of California so they could congregate, and 20 people perished. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, so many people are, in false belief of what this pandemic has done and what it causes to society here in America and around the world. When we think about the U.S. today topping over 3 million cases of coronavirus, that's positive cases, and that's just of the people who have been tested. You got to realize there is still some 350 million Americans who have not been tested for the coronavirus. So if you just look at the percentage of people that have been tested versus that has not been tested, this disease is more rapid than what people want to think about. And here it is with, we have the administration talking about it's under control and it's slowing down, and the only reason we have more positive cases that we're testing. Well, that's the reason why you test it, is to try to prevent the spread of a pandemic, so you want people to be as safe as possible. And as we look at people saying we have to have social gathering, we have to get back together, and things will be okay. No, this world will never be what it was a year ago, Charlton. This has altered life for everybody in every capacity, and that's what everybody has to understand. They talk about the economics. When we look at America, America can print money all they want because it's only backed up by the paper that they print. Yeah. It's not gold certificates, it's not silver certificates. But the bottom line is what our politicians and lawmakers must understand. It's about the survival of a nation, not about a political entity. It's about the survival of a nation, and that's how everybody should look at it. Don't politicize it the way the politicians have done with this COVID-19. You have to utilize knowledge of what you heard from the medical experts. Yeah. And these people are medical experts for a reason. They're not out there playing politics. They're telling you the science of the struggle that we're in as a nation and a world. So.
Yeah, well, when you say science, sometimes people don't believe in science, Big C, but they believe. I mean, my heart breaks for it, but he called me to see how I was doing and to tell me some things that had happened to some of the other pastors that he's known for many, many years. This is California. This is not like down in Florida, but to have some bad news that 20 people have passed, and I'm just, a lot of people fought the governor of California saying that we have a right to assembly. We have a right to go to our churches and worship God, and it's a shame. Today, it happened finally down in, you ever heard somebody say, shut up and dribble, Big C? Shut up and dribble. I've heard that before, Big C. The NBA started the restart in Orlando. It's underway now, Big C. Just like I said, let it rain. Well, they've already rained in on Orlando. Teams started to arrive on Tuesday. Will continue to move in until all 22 teams will be there by the end of this week. And, man, I just go back to what my pastor friend had told me about people that they resisted wearing a mask. They resisted that they could not get together and congregate with their fellow worshipers because they felt they had a right to worship to God, and they chose science to be on the back burner. Do you feel the NBA going into a bubble is like these pastors that went into a church? They didn't believe in science. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, what I look at with the NBA going into this bubble in Florida is this is one of the struggles that the Negro race has in America and will continue to have, is when you have a time to exert the ultimate power you have as a culture, you let it go away for a few dollars, not seeing the bigger picture on the other side. You're thinking about losing a few $1 million right now. Think about the billions that you could gain later on as a culture if you utilize the political clout that you have at this day and time. You think about the reason why people want these NBA players to get back together in Florida is for their economic gain, not the players' economic gain. They care less about that.
Yeah.
They think about the overall amount of money that they're losing. But if these players were to come together with some senility, Charlton, and say, look, we're going to utilize the power that we have. We're going to keep the momentum of this George Floyd murder going in America, looking for social and economic change. And we talked about forming their own Negro leagues, Charlton, which they have the clout, the power, and the economic backing to do.
Yeah.
This is a time that they're letting it get away. When we think about other cultures, how they come together in America, when we think about the Jewish culture, we think about the Asian culture, we think about the Hispanic culture and Indian culture, Charlton, they come together for economic gain and triumph.
Yeah.
This is something that the Negroes have lost sight of. Let a few of them make some money and not worry about the totality of the culture that they can really build a lot of economic and social power with in America, and they're letting this moment get away, Charles.
Yeah, and when I think about it, I don't know how much the revenue was in 2019. I'm sure I could pull it up. Some people say almost $9 billion. $9 billion is a lot of money, and when 80% of your product is African American, it generated almost $9 billion for playing basketball. That means that's every year. Not over the lifetime of the last decade. Every year, Big C, $9 billion. And it really is to me, because every one of these players, they have a parent, Big C, if their parents are here or if they're not, but they still have family members. But sometimes it's like follow the leader. Follow the leader. I learned it when I was growing up, and some leaders would lead you to the edge of the cliff. Conspicuously absent, as my son said to me, Dad, you know what's conspicuously absent? I said, what's that, son? He said the owners are not going on these trips to the Orlando. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, that's something that I've always said, and I mentioned it in the show yesterday. It's just all these owners are in desperate need to get all these Negroes and the rest of the players back together, Charlton, in these leagues and get them to play. Why don't they come and join them, throughout the workout session? They're not willing to put their lives and their health in peril, Charlton, for these other guys. They want the players to go out there and sacrifice, and whatever happens to them is what they take back to the families. Oh, well, as they say, the S word happens.
Yeah.
That's what they're looking at. And so when you think about the thoughts and the compassion of a human being, we don't get that from our Oval Office administration, having compassion for other Americans. And I see that same plight from the owners of these professional teams. They're not having compassion for the players that they're putting out there in potentially harm's way of health risk.
Okay, but I want to ask you a question, too, because you talk about this all the time. At some point in time, we got to look at the man in the mirror. And if somebody says, man, let's go rob a bank, do you say, well, I did it because somebody told me to do it? At some point in time, Big C, these men are grown men. Nobody's a minor in the league, as far as I know. They're all grown men. And most of them, I would say, at some point in time, they decided they're going to make that choice to go jump off that bridge or whatever it is. And they decided, even though a pastor tells me in California, within 7 months that people passed away because they were adamant that they had the right to go into church and worship God. They had the right, Big C. It's my right to go. They even sued Governor Gavin Newsom, and 20 have passed away. I'm not saying they all came from that church, but 20 are gone. So at what point in time can these players, like my son said to me, if the owners aren't going, why won't they follow the leader and stay away like the owners stay away, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I look at it from this point, and unfortunately I do think that it is going to happen, that we're going to end up with a professional and collegiate player on a respirator because people have told them that they need to go out there and play, and that's their only way to survive in life. And without them going out there entertaining the world, what is there to look forward to? I mean, you have to understand that your life and your family is something that you look forward to. You've been blessed and honored to be able to play the game at a professional level. I mean, it's a very elite fraternity.
Yeah.
But also, death will also, creep in on that fraternity. You're not immune from this COVID-19. And the sad and horrific thing, Charlton, is that we're seeing more and more children pass away on a daily basis from this COVID-19. We're talking about people under the age of 18 years of age. And this is becoming something that's very stymieing. You think about the state of Florida. Right now, the state of Florida, average age of persons getting COVID-19 is 21 years of age.
Wow.
Where the hell is this bubble at? It's down in Florida. So it's telling you right now, no one gives a damn about the athletes. And the owners, as your son says, Why aren't they showing up? Because they're a little more intelligent.
Yeah.
They're about protecting their money, not protecting the health of the players.
Yeah. I like I tell my son, you know, when I grew up around some of everything. I knew guys that did bad things, and by the grace of God, I chose to stay away from them. But there were guys that did all kind of things, but like they follow the leader. Like I tell my son all the time, the leader better be the guy you see in the mirror, because I'm never going to tell you wrong. And even when you get out around people, it's the people that say you're my friend, you're my homeboy, you know, we friends, we're boys. But some of these guys, I'm so disappointed. But they're grown men, and they have a right to live, they have a right to die, they have a right to do Russian roulette, whatever they want to do. But you know, and I think you brought it up yesterday, I was paying attention more today, the Ivy League, unlike the guys in the NBA bubble that say Black Lives Matter, really, is the Ivy League that said they're not going to play any sports until 2021. I guess none of them are down in the Orlando in the bubble. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, and I praise the Ivy League. They made this decision 2 days ago that they weren't going to play any spring sports. And so you think about the intelligence of people. And, I mean, the leader, the vanguard, is the Ivy League when it comes to collegiate athletics.
Yeah.
Is that they're there about an education. They're not going to put their athletes in peril. And I think that this is a movement, Charlton, that will happen throughout the rest of the NCAA. I mean, you always have to have somebody to take the first step forward, as you talked about the game following the leader.
Yeah.
And a leader, when you think about the Ivy League was the one place that Negro athletes could play in the early 1900s without discrimination. Many of them, Fritz Pollard played there, and his brother played there when you talk about African-American football players. So they've always been open arms as far as understanding the plight of society.
Yeah.
And so I pay homage to the Ivy League for taking this drastic and sensible matter, Charlton, to the forefront, saying that we're not going to put any of our athletes, regardless of the sports, regardless of the economics, in harm's way.
Yeah.
And this is an entire conference. So now, when you think about the Power Five and the rest of the conference around America, Charlton,
yeah,
the Ivy League has set the table. Do you care about your athletes, or is it all about money? Is humanity worth more than that paper that you're talking about? Because you will have an opportunity to recoup that money down the road, but you won't have an opportunity to recoup the life of athletes that you destroy. And when athletes or anybody else, Charlton, get COVID-19, there's a long-term effect from it.
Yeah.
It's not that you defeat the disease, because the disease stays in your body. You end up with lung scarring. What do athletes need? They need lung and air capacity more than anything else, Charlton, and other things that will affect the body. So you're talking about lifelong problems that somebody is going to have when they come down with COVID-19.
You know, I'm telling you, again, people make up their own choices, but I would just implore all of these guys to read. Most of them have children, and the Tuskegee experiment, it lasted 40 years, but they didn't tell those black men about the syphilis they were giving them. The United States government did over 600 men with syphilis to see how they would respond to whatever vaccines they were working on. You know, when you go fishing, I know you fish a lot. I don't know what you told me, that sometimes you get into the lake and you'll dig in the lake with your hands to grab a catfish, or was I wrong? Does that make any sense? Speak to your thoughts.
Well, we don't dig in the lake. We know that on the banks in some places, Charlton, that catfish go in these little crevices called doodling and stuff.
Okay.
So you put your hand in there, and the catfish is going to open up his mouth, and then something touches his face, and you can pull it out. It's just a matter, can you deal with the little bristles on the inside the catfish mouth? But you got a great fish when you pull it out.
I'll keep going to the grocery store to get my fish, but I also believe that when people want to fish, they fish with a net because they catch more fish with a net as opposed to with a hook. And I just want to touch on this before we get on. And again, as my pastor was telling me, just people would believe in that God was going to save them, as opposed to science. And 20 people have perished, and that's only we're only in July. That's a crazy, Big C. But the Ivy League, they said they're going to put it on the pause because of COVID-19. There's no other reason in the universe that the Ivy League said they were not going to play sports until next year, because they're hoping we'll have some type of treatment for it by then. The only one reason, Big C, it was COVID-19, but because they care about the student body that they have that goes to those schools. And you know, Stanford University also, out here on the West Coast, some people call Stanford the Ivy League of the West Coast, they've also decided to shut down 11 programs Now, they're still, I guess, up in the air for football. David Shaw's a good coach down there. But their program decided that more of the non-essential program, and they have a $26 billion endowment, so they're not missing out on money, but I think they're doing that also to shelter people for their health. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you have to look at that. I mean, everybody's going to look at an economic shortfall on every campus this year, Charlton, regardless of what occurs. But you have to be realistic, you know. If you're an institution and you're talking about academia, and you're an academia institution, and you tell everybody student athletes, you know, this is where the rubber will meet the pavement right now about the line from these institutions, that these are athletes that you have come there that take it as students.
Yeah.
You know, if it's about a student athlete, then that student athlete, you're more concerned about his academia and his health than you are about him going out there or she going out there playing a sport.
Yeah.
And so this is where the senility of the Ivy League has come about, Charlton, to say, hey, we're a salient group of people that think about the student. The athletic part, that's all extra.
Yeah.
But the critical reason why these people come here is to get an education, men and women, Charlton, and they put that first and foremost.
Yeah.
And so most likely they'll be doing satellite classes instead of gathering on campus in the Ivy League this year. But Charlton, as we see the push from the Power 5 conferences to say that all these Negro athletes, we need them here to make money, we don't care if they go to class. We need them out here to make money and get in front of COVID.
Yeah.
And think about the coaches on the college level, Charlton. I know you talked about Sarkisian at Alabama recovering from heart surgery.
Yeah.
Realistically, he should not even be around the team when you're talking about COVID-19.
Oh, I know.
Condition that will hinder him the rest of his life, and so it makes him very susceptible to COVID-19. Nick Saban is in his 70s, the head coach of Alabama.
Yeah.
And many other coaches in the SEC have some years on them. So when you think about that, Charlton, and just not just them, but the rest of the Power 5 conferences, these coaches that are up in their 60s and 70s in the Big Ten,
Yep.
in the SEC, in the Pac-12, you know, the Big 12, ACC, Charlton, these coaches are in peril.
Yeah.
So if you think that missing 1 year, that $9 million salary is going to have you standing in a food line, Charlton, looking for a handout, then you're
Right.
the stupidest man in America.
Yeah, it's hard to blow $10 million in 1 year. Some people don't get that in 3 or 4 lifetimes. So there are 11 sports. I mean, I cut my teeth on the farm down in Stanford. I remember working in the booth with the 99th big game between Cal and Stanford down there when Tyra Vanderbilt was winning championships with the Carlton before they expanded Maples Pavilion. I love that gym. It used to bounce. The floor would bounce because of the way it's constructed. But I love going down to Stanford doing football and basketball games. Even the Pac-10 championships back in the day. I remember doing the Pac-10 championships too down there on the farm. But 11 sports that would be discontinued are men's and women's fencing, field hockey, Big C, lightweight rowing, men's rowing, co-ed women's sailing, squash, synchronized swimming, men's volleyball, and wrestling. So everybody knows that the coaches have all been told about it. And the thing that I love about Stanford, and one of my neighbors, his daughter went to Stanford, and what I love about that school, and what I'm hearing about Ivy League schools, is they really are using science. Like, they teach their kids to really read. You can't do what Donald Trump did and buy someone to read for you and take your test for you. They actually read, and I really think that the parents that have their kids going to Stanford or the Ivy League, they can even breathe a sigh of relief that maybe their kids won't bring something home around Thanksgiving. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you think about a lot of the mathematics and the physics and the science people and the biology people, Charlton, they come from these universities. So, you know, you have some very salient people, intelligent people out there who think about life beyond just the moment.
Yeah.
They're prepping for their future, not just today. And that's what the university, the conference, when they took the stance to say, you know, we're looking at the future of America, not what's going to occur this weekend. We're looking at the future of America. And that's what people in academia must do, and people in leadership must do, Charlton. We can't look at our administration in this country and ask for leadership.
Yeah.
When you have over 3 million Americans that have fallen ill to this disease, Charlton, and we've lost almost 135,000 Americans have lost their lives thus far to this disease, and that number keeps rising. And you think about, March 11th in this country, Charlton, I believe we had 11 deaths. 11 deaths March 11th here in the United States. And now we're here July,
Wow.
6 months,
Yeah.
4 months later,
Yeah.
and we're at 135,000 deaths. So I don't know whether administration said, they have a grasp on this disease, Charlton, and they have it under control. But, I think when you lose 135,000 people in a span of 4 months,
Yeah.
you kind of lost control of something.
You would think so. Big C, you know how we said follow the leader? We opened the show. Man, the universe is amazing. We said follow the leader. We talked about the Ivy League, canceling fall sports. We talked about Stanford putting 11 programs on pause. The Ohio State, dot the I, University. A Buckeye is a nut. But those nuts in Ohio, Big C, they put the Big C pause on Ohio State voluntary on-campus workouts after, drum roll, they had some COVID-19 tests come up positive. I know the NBA guys don't know about it because they're just going to shut up and drill. Maybe Laura Ingham was right. But Ivy League and then Stanford did it, and now Ohio State has put the Ohio State voluntary workouts on pause because of COVID-19 testings, and they want to put a pause to it. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, as I mentioned earlier in the program, the power that these professional athletes possess in the United States, and they're going to let this moment slip away where they have the ultimate political control, Charlton, of American society, and they're willing to let it go away for a few dollars more.
Yeah.
And I remember that was a Clint Eastwood movie back in the 70s, a few dollars more. That people
Yeah.
were willing to risk their lives for that. And that seems to be the mission statement of the NFL and the NBA. For a few dollars more, I'm willing to risk my life.
Yeah.
And if I get it, I think I can beat it with the medical help that we have. They don't understand the long-term effect.
Yeah.
You may get it, and you might get out of it, Charlton, but it could cost you a career with the lung scarring and not having the air capacity that you need to play those great sports. So, with the Ohio State putting the pause on, you think about it. The Big 12 is the largest economic, not the Big 12, but the Big 10
Yeah.
is the largest economic conference in America. They make more revenue than any other conference in America. And if they put a pause on the sports, you have to understand that they really now understand the science. That it's more important about the science than it is risking these young men and women's lives.
Yeah, and even when we talked about Stanford putting the pause, Stanford put the Big C pause on 11 programs. Ohio State, the Big C pause hit Ohio State too, is men's and women's basketball, field hockey, football, which is the identity of Ohio State University, men's and women's soccer, and women's volleyball. That's more than just one program. I mean, it's all important. You know how we said follow the leader. The news, it came just hours after North Carolina's football program also shut down voluntary activities after the county's health department, the county health department, not some school, but the county's health department, identified the campus as a cluster for COVID-19. North Carolina University, Tar Heels, the school announced today 37 people within Tar Heels athletics, coaches and staff and student athletes tested positive for COVID-19 as NBA basketball players say, Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! Let's go into this bubble. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is becoming a wave of a pandemic in the athletic world. And I don't know why people thought that athletes would be immune from COVID-19 just because of their superior health and conditioning that they live throughout the year. COVID-19 doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care about age. It doesn't care about gender. It does not care about race. And the problem with being an athlete and trying to avoid COVID-19, that means you can't play because you're going to be all of the things that they tell everybody from the Center of Disease Control what you should not do dealing with COVID-19.
Yeah.
Social distancing, breathing on each other, touching on each other. These are the things that you have to do to be an athlete, Charlton. So this means that this disease is going to manifest. There's no way to control it. You go out on a basketball court, you got 10 guys out there, Charlton.
Yep.
After the end of the game of practice, you're going to have 8 guys with COVID-19.
Yeah.
Bottom line, you're going to have it. Football, there's 22 guys out there, Charlton, every play. At the end of the game, you're going to have 20 guys with COVID-19. So I'm trying to find a sensibility in what these players are understanding. not understanding the science. I mean, I guess this is one of the reasons why a lot of these players wanted to bypass college or do the one and done and go right into the league, Charlton, so they wouldn't have any social or mental understanding or scientific understanding about things that might jeopardize their potential career.
Yeah. Well, Big C, we're going to take what's called the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. And I'm telling you, Big C, I mean, it's a sad dog that won't wag his own tail. And some dogs don't have a tail because people cut the tail off of them to make them look tough or whatever. But Big C Sports keeps speaking the truth about politics and sports. And at some point in time, Black Lives Matter, come on, be real. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, we are back from the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on the Apple Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcast. Anywhere in the world, just say Google or Alexa play Big C Sports Podcast. Now, Ohio State, what's today? Today is Wednesday, I believe. I know it's Wednesday because Tyler Perry has a show called The Oval, and I watch it, Big C. I'm hooked on it. It's like, oh, I wish it would rain by the Temptations. It's a great, great program. Tyler Perry called The Oval. It comes on BET tonight, so I can't wait to watch that. But at the same time, as we're talking about Ohio State, I want to get your thoughts on something. And you have your own opinion, and I have mine. Nobody can speak for anybody. But what would you say to the SEC? Because I know you love the Southern brand of football, and I say the exploitation that comes with it. That's just my opinion. But what will it take for the first school in the SEC to do what Ohio State just did, to do what North Carolina just did, to do what Stanford just did, to do what the whole Ivy League just did? I think Vanderbilt's the better academic school in the SEC. Which one of those schools will have a come-to-Jesus moment, Big C, and decide they're going to put it on pause too, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton is going to have to see who stops taking their stupid pills. That's the bottom line right there. They're going to have to stop passing out the stupid pills and get in touch with reality.
Yeah.
Because as we look at the spread of COVID-19 on some of these campuses in the SEC, that's a reality check.
Yeah.
That means, you have campus closed. As soon as athletes show up, you're having 20 and 30 athletes test positive for COVID-19. And you're not saying pump your brakes. But, I guess the economics of everything, that they're willing to risk the lives of these athletes to make sure that they get their salaries. That's what it comes down to, Charlton. I mean, everybody right now, when they look at the country being closed down, because if you play the games, you're going to allow fans in the stands.
Yeah.
You're not going to say 50% capacity. You're not going to do that.
Right.
If you play the games, you're going to let the stadiums be packed. And so when you got 80 to 105,000 people in these stadiums on Saturday in the heat in the South, breathing, sweating, and blowing passages at each other,
yeah,
this is what you're looking at. You're looking at nothing but a petri dish. But don't fool yourself thinking that people are going to play without fans.
Yeah.
They're just not going to do it on the college level because that's where the money is generated, by having the butts in the seats.
Yeah.
And those butts, half of them are going to be contaminated.
Yeah.
So when you think about that, in every game that you're going out there and you got 50,000 people walking out with COVID-19, Charlton, it's just a death trap waiting to happen.
Now, remember, Mac Brown, he was on TV last year, I believe, last couple of years, but he also coached Texas before. But this is his second stint at North Carolina, I believe. It's his second stint at North Carolina, and he's, I believe, 68 years old. I don't know how old Nick Saban is, but he has to be right around that same age, Big C. Now, at some point in time, and maybe this won't happen, as you know, if schools are paying a coach $7 million, $10 million a year, they'll tell that coach, hey, shut up. Don't you say nothing. Let the athletic director come out and talk about what they're going to do. So, but at some point in time, and we don't know, but what kind of conversations do you think that guys like Nick Saban and Mac Brown and David Shaw are having as they're saying, you know what, guys, maybe it's not so smart after all? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the ultimate decision comes down to the president, the dean of these universities. I mean, yes, football coaches do wield a lot of power. They're generally the highest paid administrator on campus. But, you have presidents and deans of universities based on intelligence. and understanding the science and the truth. That's what their job is. You know, they're there to oversee the entire structure of that university, not just an athletic program, but you're talking about the entire student body.
Yeah.
So it falls upon them, not the coaches, not the athletic directors. It falls upon the deans of these universities to take that moment and say, this is about life and protection of life and the security of our young people that we have on campus. Not about whether a sport is being played or not played, but about the health and welfare of the entire student body.
Now, I believe Clemson has Dabo Swinney. I don't know how old Dabo is, Big C, but you think about programs in the ACC, Clemson, Miami, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Florida State, Louisville. There's Pittsburgh, Virginia, North Carolina State, Wake Forest. Clemson, they've continued to have voluntary workouts even after having numerous students test positive for COVID-19. So what is it about North Carolina in the same conference? They'll shut down, but they were actually shut down by the health department. It wasn't someone on the staff or at the university that made that conclusion. Is it coming soon to Clemson also, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at those states, you have to look at the governor's leadership. I mean, you look at Florida. The state of Florida has stopped, reporting the amount of positive cases. The state of Florida doubled its positive cases in 1 month. They went from 100 to over 200,000 in a 30-day span of positive tests. So when you think about a state being such a hotbed for COVID-19 positive tests, Charlton, the state of Florida. How many universities are down there? You got Florida State. You got Florida. You got Florida A&M. You got Florida A&I. And every other Florida
Central
that
Florida,
you can think about,
South Florida,
down in the state of Florida. They got to have at least 25 universities that play football down in that great state.
And junior college.
The Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, is saying there's not a problem with COVID-19, yet the highest age group is 21 and under. You remind me what the age is of a college football and basketball player.
Yeah.
Because sometimes my math is not that damn good. So when you got the governor saying, no, we're not going to report the number of positive cases anymore, send them out there because we don't want to lose that tourism money. We don't want to lose the people at the beaches and in the restaurants and hotels, but we don't mind losing a few athletes. They're expendable.
Yeah, I mean, I know, again, as we always say, when you send your kids off to school and the coaches say, we're going to treat you like you're my own child, I doubt if any coach is putting his child in a bubble, Big C, to go play sports for them. But when you think about college football, and I believe we're right around the 8th of July, perhaps by the end of July, I think we're going to see all the major colleges, they're going to shut down their football season. It just seems that way. And if you look all throughout the history of college football programs, SMU back in the day, they were brought down because of doing some wrong things. And when you ask me how old is the average college student, if you're at SMU, I'm just being flippant. When you got guys that are 28 years old playing freshman football, Big C, at SMU, but they were shut down for some things, but they had a dominant football program. Duke used to be really good back in the 1930s, the 1960s, Big C. Texas Tech, they've always had, let's get back to the mid-90s when they got to the Big 12, but they've had a program. But when you start talking about programs like Ohio State, USC, Alabama, I won't say North Carolina, but I'll say Miami, Clemson, Florida, those schools are coming next. I don't know the stat on LSU. They won the national championship last year. Do you know if Ed Orgeron has had them stop their voluntary workouts? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, like I said, Charlton, it does not come down to the coach because the coach is the one putting voluntary workouts out there. It comes down to the dean and president of these universities. And so everybody, this is like defer and deflect that they do in the Oval Office.
Yeah.
Why is everybody putting all the onus on the head coaches of these programs? These head coaches of these programs, Charlton, on the collegiate level, have to answer to the dean or the president of their university.
Yeah.
So that dean or that university is the ultimate decision maker, not the coach, not the athletic director. It comes down from the deans and president office, Charlton. They are the ones who are technically the commander-in-chief on campus. Those are the big boys. Those are the intelligent guys. Yes, they deal with economics of the campus, but they also have to deal with the health of the campus, Charlton.
Yeah.
Any president or dean in any major university or even small university around this country, if they let this go forth, they should be charged with, reckless negligence. That's what they should be charged with. reckless negligence and be prosecuted, Charleston, to the full extent of the law for knowingly putting young people in harm's way of potentially losing their life.
Well, maybe if there's some smart lawyers out there, that'll happen. But the 20 most profitable college football programs, and this is why the Ivy League couldn't care less about what I'm going to bring up, but the 20 most profitable college football programs made an eye-popping about $927 million combined, Big C, in expenses. The SEC's leading conference in the field on the balance sheet. I'm just talking about the football programs, not over all with baseball, basketball, track and field, etc. But SEC on the field, on the balance sheet, has 9 schools in the top 20. Of the remaining 11 most profitable football programs, there are 4 from the Big Ten, 3 from the Pac-12, 2 from the Big 12, and 1 from the ACC. I'm just going to run down these numbers and get your thoughts. Texas, $92 million. Tennessee, $70 million. LSU, $58 million. Michigan, $56 million. Notre Dame, $54 million. Georgia, $50 million. Ohio State, $50 million. Oklahoma, $48 million. Auburn, $47 million. Alabama, $46 million. Oregon, $40 million. Florida State, $39 million. Arkansas, $38 million. Washington, $38 million. Florida, $37 million. Texas A&M, $37 million. Penn State, $36 million. Michigan State, $32 million. USC, $29 million. South Carolina, $28 million. That's just the football program, and I'm sure that's not all. That's their profit. That's not what they make. That's their profit after expenses. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at the revenue from these conferences, the Big 12 leads, the Big 10 leads the way, Charlton. An average payout per team of around $46 billion. I'm not sure where those numbers came from. SEC is second, where they got like $44 million per team, and it trickled down between the ACC, the Big 12, and the Pac-10 as they came down the list. Charlton, when you think about those conferences and the revenue that the football teams generated, and we're talking about that's just television money. Money.
Yep.
That all of these conferences, the top 2 conferences were in the 40 million, Charlton, and the other 3 were in the 30s of the Power 5 conferences, the people who compete for the national championship. Then, I know that the University of Michigan makes a lot more money than that they generated before the kickoff last year. They had $125 billion in profit.
Yeah.
The football, the Big Blue, had turned that. So the numbers are, it depends on how you look at them and where they come from, that they're generating money. And this is the reason why so many programs are allowed to exist on these collegiate campuses. Title IX exists because football is being played. You get rid of football, you wipe out all of Title IX because very few campuses generate the money from the female sports, other than some SEC schools where they have these top-flight programs and some Big 12 programs where you have packed houses every night on the lady basketball games. So money is the driving force behind all of this. Don't ever fool yourself thinking that it's about the competitive spirit. It's about the competitive dollar that everybody's looking at. And like you said, we look at the NBA players that have gone into the bubble that's going to just shut up and dribble and not worry about the plight of COVID-19. Maybe they do need to go out and hire Laura Ingalls from Fox to be their spokesperson because she has told them what to do, and that's what they're doing. They're going to shut up and dribble. They're going to go in there. The WNBA is going to do the same. Same thing. Major League Baseball, the NHL, NFL is right around the corner, but I'm hoping that everybody will follow the lead of the Ivy League. And think about the deans and the presidents of those prestigious universities, Charlton. They made a decision that life and health over dollars, because you have an opportunity to recoup that money if you're alive. But if you're not alive and healthy, you don't have an opportunity to recoup that money.
And Big C, I want to take a moment to apologize. I really do. They say is a pretty sad dog that won't wag his own tail, but it's a pretty sorry dog that won't apologize when he's wrong. I really want to apologize to Laura Ingraham. And I never thought I'd say this because I thought most men read and that most men would put their health of themselves and their families over going out and playing a game. But when she told those men, shut up and dribble. And a lot of people gave her a lot of pushback. But I'm not even being flippant because Laura Ingraham, she's not going down there into the bubble. It's whatever she is about her political slant. She has is freedom of speech in the United States of America, Big C. And there's so many things that I don't agree with. But I'm going to say, as a woman, she knows men better than I do. And I am a man, Big C. But when she said for those guys to shut up and dribble and quit talking about Black Lives Matter and quit talking about you love your family and you really care about the health of your mothers and your sisters and your siblings, that you want to put health first. And she told them all to shut up, and she took a lot of pushback. But would you believe they've all capitulated? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, it's true, Charlton. You never know where that vanguard is going to come from, and it came from her. She made a political, clout statement, several months ago.
Yep.
Because players were, talking about politics, and she told them to shut up and dribble. That's what they're here for.
Yeah.
And now they've adhered to what she said. They're shutting up. They're dribbling. They've been told about the science and the possibility of something destroying their lives or their family lives. But they said, that's irrelevant. We just want to shut up and dribble and hopefully try to get a ring. There's 22 teams. There's one ring that's going to be passed out. So 23 of these teams will walk away frustrated, disgusted, and health broken. So, but sometimes you got to listen to the big person in the room, and I guess that's Laura Ingraham now.
Yeah, Laura Ingraham, you're the queen of the NBA. Maybe they should put her. Who they had on the trophy? Is it who's the guy that they have on the trophy? Forget his name. It's
Larry O'Brien.
Larry O'Brien. They should make it the Laura Ingraham Trophy because she said shut up, and all those men shut up, and they're doing exactly what she told them. NFL football, man, our show goes by way too fast. Man, I wish it would rain. That's the Temptations. I think I'm going to Google that song tonight. NFL, they give a stay-at-home order. It means no travel for training camp. But maybe I'm misunderstanding it. Did the NBA just travel down to Florida? So what information does the NFL have that the black athletes in the NBA don't have, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, they know that they're going to be stricken with the COVID-19. They do the stay-at-home order. They're trying to lessen the possibilities of youth come to training camp with COVID-19. They know that the lifestyles of NFL players, that they like to be mobile around all the time, get together in groups and gatherings. But it's very difficult to work out by yourself when you're an NFL player. Normally you get with a group of players and work out, whether it's in the gym or whether it's on the field, Charlton. So you're going to be constantly exposing yourself to this pandemic.
Yeah.
And that's what they're trying to curtail, because they know once they get into training camp, Charlton, there's no such thing as social distancing.
Yeah.
You cannot do that. You cannot put 90 players in a locker room and say you're not elbow to elbow.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, in training camp every year, you brought in extra lockers just to accommodate the extra players that came in. So, I know they've cut it down to 2 preseason games. They're talking about trying to eliminate preseason altogether.
They're going to do that, too.
So if that's the case, you'll never have a draft again, realistically, if you're going to start eliminating the preseason, because who do you decide to put on the team and who not?
Yeah, that's a very good point. The league version of stay-at-home order is going to end the longest, I guess, if you think about the Cowboys always came out to California. I think it's been 54 years that they've come out to California. They go down there near Oxnard, on the coast down near Santa Barbara, Ventura, Oxnard. The Pittsburgh Steelers in Pennsylvania, in Detroit, Pennsylvania, and to keep the Carolina Panthers away from the only composite site, 25-year-old franchise, Carolina Panthers. We know what just happened to North Carolina, Tar Heels, Big C. But everybody's going to do, I'm going to stop saying this. I think I've been wrong. I keep saying do what your doctor says. And, a lot of people don't do what the doctor says, just like my pastor with the 20 other pastors that have passed away because they wanted to sue the state of California saying, we have a right to go worship God in a church. And they're gone. They were here at the beginning of the year. They're gone now. So I don't know what you can do. You can't force people to do the right thing, Big C. We can only try to lead people, and then they'll do whatever they feel. And that's the sad part of it all. Even if you look at the NFL, Baltimore Ravens star quarterback Lamar Jackson, he canceled, maybe he reads a different newspaper, because he canceled an event down in Florida, where the NBA players, we should call it the Laura Ingraham Basketball Association. But Lamar Jackson canceled an event down in Florida because he knows it's surging in Florida, and he wants to stop having large gatherings, and he doesn't want to be responsible for somebody getting sick. I applaud him for that, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, that means that you're not putting yourself first, Jonathan, and he understands that he knows the plight of COVID-19 in Florida is one of the hottest states in the country, Jonathan, but the governor wants to act like, there's nothing going on and they have it under control, and it's a political issue. It's not a health issue. And I wonder, does he go to any of the funerals, Jonathan, down there in the state of Florida when someone passes away and say this shouldn't not be politicized that you lost your family member because I have the state open.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. You know, you told me this thing and you brought it up, and I'm serious about it too. If you were to tell African Americans to put their money together, you were talking about football and even basketball collectively, because they have enough to form their own league where they could put safety first, and they could do it. XFL started football. Vince McMahon started football. We had the USFL that had the United Football League. There's so many leagues that we've had. Yes,
when you think about the Big Three league that was started by Ice Cube,
yeah,
an entertainer,
yeah,
who started the league along with the partnership of some other people, and he took retired players, Charlton,
yep,
and made it a household institution, the Big Three league, that it had much interest, and they were majority, African American players.
Yeah.
So when you think about that, and you could form the Negro Leagues, I mean, it's been proven that the Negro Leagues in baseball could exist. It could exist. And so that same cloud exists today, that you give opportunities to Negroes in America to control their own destiny.
Yeah.
And that's what everybody has always wanted in life, is to be able to control your destiny. But, I guess the leadership that comes from Laura Ingraham versus, having leadership within as a group of people, Charlton, means more to them, that they're willing to shut up the dribble and not have control of their product.
Yeah.
A lot of people criticize Michael Jordan over the decades, saying, he never got out and spoke up politically, that he was more concerned about developing his brand.
Yeah.
And look at what it's done to him. It's made him a billionaire, Charlton.
Yeah.
By focusing on his brand.
Yeah.
And that's the same opportunity that the Negro athletes have right now.
Yeah.
To focus on their brand and take control of it, Charlton. But you have no leadership within the group that thinks about that, the power that they possess.
Yeah.
I mean, never before in the history of Negroes and blacks in America have they had the power that they have at this moment in time. Because not only just them, but they have many of the white society that's behind them, that's understanding the plight that they've gone through over the centuries and decades in this country, Charlton. And if they sit down and put together a direction that they wanted to go in, and as a collective group form some leadership, it's going to be Katie bar the door.
Yeah, it's amazing. When you think about leadership, Patty Mills, he'll play for the NBA restart for the San Antonio, and he said that he's going to, give over $1 million on his salary to causes to help fight racism. But I know racism has its own thing, and it's a wide
but
swath.
Think about this with Patty Mills.
Yeah.
Patty Mills wasn't even born in America. He's an Australian, Charles.
Yeah.
He's from Australia.
Yep.
And yet he has more focus on what blacks need in America than the black athletes do here.
Yeah.
You're taking a kid from Australia that's saying, I'm taking leadership in your country that you should be doing.
Yeah.
And you guys still don't understand.
Yeah, he's going to have causes in Australia to help fight racism. It's a worldwide thing. I believe in dialogue. Everybody's going to do whatever they have to do. But I would be lying to you if I said I wasn't disappointed in some of our, as we put, Charles Barkley said, I'm not a role model. Nobody's a role model except for the person you see every day that's putting food in your belly and keeping a roof over your head. But I'm really disappointed because as an African-American man, I pride myself on reading as much as I can. I don't know everything, but I'm always insatiable trying to read something else. And to have my son quiz me on words, he has picked up that same habit. But I really feel that a lot of these guys have let somebody goat them into doing something and not paying attention to science. Before we close out, Maryland governor, he said it's probably time to change the Redskins' name. His name is Larry Hogan. And he believes that the name the Washington's professional football team, that it, quote unquote, probably should be changed. So he's not committed to it, though he supported the team when he ran for governor in 2014. He's a Republican, and I know Snyder's going to change it when people take his money. They're only going to take it for two reasons: the fear of death or losing money. If they take out the money, he's going to change the name Redskins. But it's nice when somebody's so committed, they say, yeah, I'll probably marry you, Big C.
Well, you got to realize that the Redskins have always been the last team in the NFL to understand the plight of minority people. They were the last team in the NFL to have a Negro player on the roster.
Yeah.
The other teams had Negro players. The Redskins was the last team to allow a Negro player to play on the roster, Charlton. So they've always been slow in what they do. And I know they're trying to get back into RFK Stadium.
Yeah.
I know the mayor has told them that there's no way that they can come back to that stadium using the Redskins name. But I also look at Dan Snyder's plight in this, Charlton.
Yeah.
He is creating controversy and interest in a team that is a losing organization.
Yeah.
That has had 9 head coaches in the last 20 years. Think about that. There's no stability within this organization. So the only way he's been able to keep his team relevant is keep this controversy going.
Yeah. Yep. He's kept the controversy going. And it's a good controversy because things they change when people talk, and that's why people got to keep talking. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on so many apps all over the world, and I really do appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. I want to close out today just talking about how, I wish it would rain. Man, I really wish it would rain. Too hot in California. But I know, and I thought I was being flippant when I said it. Because I said it a while. You may have been to the Mount Rushmore rally, the one down in Tulsa that you went to. And I was saying that women tend to be, most women, not all, but most women tend to be smarter than men, or maybe more intuitive than men, maybe because they give birth and there's an extra connection. And I thought I was being flippant, but the WNBA, most of those women, at least I won't say all, but most, have decided I'm going to sit out to focus on some other social causes, and they've done that. When the men say, I'm going to sit out because I pulled my hamstring or because of some injury, but some of the women have come out and said, I don't think it's safe. I'd rather focus on other causes. Laura Ingham says, shut up and dribble, so a lot of men have capitulated to her. But I think, as I say, we need more women to give their input about what can do to advance this Black Lives Matter movement. I think it's more and more true now because, as you know, in the last few minutes, some men will test positive down in that bubble. And outside of POTUS, who's probably going to laugh his butt off because he's told all of them shut up. And isn't it weird how they're doing what POTUS wants them to do, which is put themselves in harm's way? It's a weird way to look at it, but does that make sense to you, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I look at it from a stupidity aspect. Here it is, like I said, you have the opportunity of a lifetime to make social and economic change for your culture, and you're letting this moment bypass you, Charlton, as a group of men who are millionaires who have the power and it can control the narrative. They can control the television narrative.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to have. You have to have exposure and airways to get your message out. And if they stood up and said, we're not going to play until we get the social change that Colin Kaepernick spoke about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Until we get the economic change that Martin Luther King spoke about over 50 years ago.
Yep.
This is when we'll come back and play. When you allow Negroes in America to have a seat at the big table.
Yeah, but some of them won't go. They want to play basketball, Big C. As we close out, the NFL collectively made about $15 billion in 2019. Black players account about 80% of the league. That's about $10.5 billion. If they look at factoring with the bank, they collectively worth about $105 billion, Big C. As a monolithic group, NBA basketball made about $9 billion last year. African Americans accounted for about $8 billion of the $9 billion. Collectively, factoring included, they would be worth about $80 billion, Big C. Billion, with a B, billion. But a lot of guys don't see that. They just want to shut up and dribble.
Yeah. You know, when you look at those things and what you can create with those between social, community, economic wealth and upbringing, Charlton, that's what you can do. You're talking about putting people in executive positions. You're talking about expansion of jobs and revenue in communities, Charlton.
Yeah.
The things that money could do, that could go out and you talk about creating equity as a culture in America could be done through the Negro race if you form these leagues, Charlton, and took that. You think that these other people would not beg to be in partnership with you?
Oh, my goodness.
You have all the athletic dominance in the world in these Negro leagues. And the NFL could still exist.
Yeah.
But it would not be able to compete talent-wise.
and they would ask you for the Rooney Rule for white men, Big C. I want to close out by saying this. I think it's an absolute must-see. It's a movie. It's on Apple TV. And it's starring and produced by Samuel L. Jackson. It's called The Bankers. Big C is what you've been talking about. The Bankers by Samuel L. Jackson. It's such a powerful story. And I would hope that every African-American, and other people too, all Americans, but every African-American, as Big C's been saying, form your own league because money has clout. It's called The Bankers by Samuel L. Jackson. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, that movie, The Banker, that you talked about, Charlton, is actually based on a true story of incidents that occurred in Los Angeles and Texas back in the early 60s, the first black-owned bank in America. But I want to thank those frontline healthcare workers, the nurses and doctors and first responders, Charlton. And looking forward into sports, I guess we're going to have to all start following Laura Ingham now and watch everybody shut up and dribble.
Shut up! And you can shut up too every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide, where you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. Any man or woman going through that garbage should never have to go through it on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.